Hey, everybody, how are you? How about $76 billion over 11 years? That's what The Athletic is reporting the new media rights deal is for the NBA. Think about that for a minute. $76 billion over 11 years. I got to be honest, it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me at all. And this is going to cost a lot of people jobs. The networks will once again have to trim their staff. A lot of people will be getting fired. A lot of people will be unemployed because of this absurdity by the networks. Now, TNT has 5 days once the Board of Governors approves the term sheet to match an offer that would still keep them as an NBA media partner. But that is unlikely based on this report. Think about that for a minute. $76 billion. I don't think this is good for the league. It's great for the owners, and it's great for Adam Silver, and it will lead to expansion, probably Las Vegas and most certainly Seattle. But you're going to see contracts towards the early part of the decade of the 30s. They're going to reach $80 and $100 million a year. Think about that for a minute. $80 to $100 million a year. I'll tell you what else is absurd. That after a really good showing in the Utah Summer League, Zach Edey of the Memphis Grizzlies, all right, is now a consensus betting favorite for the Rookie of the Year. Really? How absurd is this? I mean, it's unbelievable to me because you're playing good against non-NBA competition in a first week of July in Utah, that you, along with Alex Sarr, are now the consensus favorites to be Rookie of the Year. Hey, you know what? Guess gambling, they come up with whatever they need to do to get you to spend your money. That's pretty amazing to me. What's not amazing is that Kawhi Leonard is not going to be in the Olympics. Why is Kawhi Leonard on the Olympic team to begin with? Seriously. That makes no sense to me. The guy missed 12 of the last 14 games. He's got injury issues we know about. What's more important? Fulfilling your contract with the LA Clippers or playing in the Olympics? Anyway, he's not going to be in the Olympics. He's been replaced by Derek White of the Boston Celtics. Does that make sense to anyone? I mean, seriously. Does that make sense? Why would Kawhi Leonard be on the team in the first place? So I guess after a couple of practices in Vegas, the decision was such that he was not going to be participating in the Summer Olympics. Unbelievable. Seriously. Incredible. All right, don't forget, we got a doubleheader. Rhino's going to be joining me at 8 o'clock. So be sure and keep that in mind. A little less than 3 hours from now, we'll be doing another show. All right, if you want to call the program, easy to do. All right, here is your link. You can click on that. You also have the QR code above my shoulder. It is just that simple to get in on the program right here on If You Don't Like That. Why don't we say hello to Jay? Jay, it's good to have you on. You'll be my leadoff man. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Grant?
I'm good.
Good. I could tell you exactly why Kawhi Leonard was on the team in the first place. You want to know why?
About that, huh?
It's because it's going to be his first gold medal.
Yes, he has not been on an Olympic team before, as it's correct. Yep.
Now, I totally get, Ty Lue was on the staff, the coaching staff, so, there's probably something there. When he got there, I don't want to sound like a fluke or a coincidence, but there's a montage of all the players arriving in Vegas and stuff, and he was walking by himself, and, he was looking like Kawhi Leonard, very monotone speaking, mono facial expression, just straight faced, just Kawhi Leonard-esque, right? Very, just like a serious looking face. And I don't know if he's dealing with other things going on. I think his, I don't want to, I mean, his business is out there, but I don't want to make any assumptions. But I do know his sister has got sentenced to life in prison, I think, within the last year as well. So I don't know. Probably he has some other stuff going on. These guys are humans too, not just NBA
Right.
players at the end of the
Yep.
day. But, so who knows if it's health, his mental health. I know he struggled with that through his career. I don't know if you heard, but his father was murdered when he was
Yep.
17, and
Yep.
yeah. So he has some stuff going on too. Um, but and I wish him the best, man. He's a phenomenal player. But I think my issue with this situation is, if you would have asked me a month ago, I would have told you the same thing, that Jaylen Brown was snubbed. Now, Jaylen Brown has more Finals MVPs than Derek White, Drew Holiday, and Tatum combined. Right? They
Yeah.
all and when we talk about youth on this team for the future of America, for the future of competing in the Olympics, Jaylen Brown and Tatum are the same age, 1 year apart, while you have 32-year-old Holiday and 30-year-old Derek White now stepping in. They're not going to be relevant in the 28 Olympics. Speaking of that, are you going to be down there in LA?
No, I have no interest in Olympic basketball. I think it's I you know, I'm been turned off by the way the United States uh, lacks the, I guess the drive to compete in world competition unless it's an Olympic year. Last year is a perfect example. They didn't even medal in the World game, the World Cup that was held in Manila. They didn't even finish in first, second, or third place, and that turns me off. They don't take it seriously. So now I'm supposed to get all excited every 4 years that the United
Right.
States basketball team is going to load up.
Well, yeah, don't worry, Grant. We have Derek White. He's going to bring us home the middle, right? You got to watch Derek White play. Why would you play Jaylen Brown?
Hey,
A franchise player
I'm
who
with you.
can
Hey, listen, I would love to be able to counter you, and I would love to be able to debate you, and I would love to be able to say you're crazy, but you're spot on. You're 100% correct on this.
It's really a joke to me. And the thing is, like I said, there's a couple players. Okay, you want to say Holiday for the defense and the guard, perimeter. That's cool.
Yep.
But Halliburton, like
It's
no,
this is all politics.
it is, and that's what everybody's been saying. And Halliburton's a phenomenal player, but Jaylen Brown is better. Jaylen Brown is he's better, a much better player. He's bigger too. You're gonna add another point guard, Derek White, 6'3". Who are we so scared of overseas that we need all this defense?
Well, that's the part I do not disagree with you. You better be damn scared and leery of a couple of teams. I'm just telling you
Exactly.
right now. There is some
Everybody we're
really
scared of is big
Serbia.
though.
Serbia is really good. France is really good. Okay, don't just
And,
automatically assume that the United States is going to just blow everyone off the floor. They
I'm not
shouldn't.
assuming that. I'm just saying
Right.
the people that we are scared of over there are big. Why are we adding another point guard? It's Wembanyama, Gobert. You got Jokic, Giannis on Greece. They're all big dudes. Why are we adding another point guard? It's not like Luka's playing, and even if he
No, they
was,
got they didn't qualify. They got beat by Greece.
exactly by a big dude. So I'm not saying Jaylen Brown's 7 feet tall, but he's like 6'7", wing length, perimeter defender. Why are we adding another 6'3" point guard?
I can't remember the last time I watched the United States in Olympic basketball. It's been a while.
I'm
I
not
think
gonna lie, Grant. I just recently bought a USA jersey at Stephen Curry because it's his first and last Olympics. So I figured I got to
I'm
grab it.
okay with that. I think that's great. And
I
listen,
think
if
it'll
I
be
were going to
great
buy a
memorabilia.
jersey, if I were going to buy one jersey on the team, I'd buy Steph Curry's jersey too. I have the utmost respect for him. I think the guy is a throwback. I think he is one of the best players of his generation. What he does
Oh
off the
yeah,
court, he's a great father
father.
and a
Yeah,
family man, and the way he conducts himself. And I know his father Dell. And so it's no surprise to me that, and I obviously got to know, his brother because he played on the Kings for a couple of years. But let me tell you, it's a great family. And I'm well aware that his parents are divorced, but they were raised the right way. You can definitely see that.
Yeah. I think that jersey right there is a collector's item for sure. That 20, 30 years from now, I'm not saying it's going to
No, I
skyrocket.
understand exactly what you mean, and you're right.
I'm never going to wear that jersey. I want to
you
frame
won't
that.
wear it?
Never. I want to frame it for memorabilia.
Why don't you buy two of them? One you can wear and one you can frame.
Because they were going, normally the swingman jerseys is like 120 or something like that. I think they're going for like 170. So I normally wait for those to go on sale, but they only came out with one version. Normally they have the swingman and then they have the authentics, which are like 200, but they only came out with the swingman for Team USA. So that's why it's going to have value, even though it's technically not an authentic one. It's still the Nike branded and stuff like that.
It's interesting when you talk about international competition. I actually get into this conversation all the time with Peja and Vladi and some of the other Europeans who played in international competition almost every summer.
Yeah, I didn't realize how good Peja was. I was just watching old Kings a couple of nights ago, 2002, 2003.
Well, I'll tell you this: if Yugoslavia had remained a country instead of being fractioned because of the Civil War, meaning that if you had Croatia, Slovenia, right, Serbia, Montenegro, if you had all of these, if the country had remained intact, they would have won, I think, probably one, if not two, gold medals in the Olympics. I mean, when you look at all the players that they had, it was pretty remarkable. I also believe that had Yugoslavia remained a country, that they would have put pressure on America to take this more seriously. Now, back then, America did take it more seriously. You had the Dream Team, obviously. But after that, it kind of curtailed off. And I think America got they were too bravado, banging their chest. Look at us. We're great, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, right.
And I don't think they took it as seriously. And then also the rest of the world has caught up somewhat. I mean, look at all the Europeans that are in the NBA. I mean, you talk about Luka, you talk about Giannis. I mean, think about it. It's Jokic. I mean, think about how many MVPs
for Sacramento. Sabonis is he was American heritage.
Yep.
He was born here, but he played for Lithuania. So,
but I also, when I was speaking with them, I always just say, does that affect your play during the NBA season because you're tired? They laughed at me. They actually thought that playing international competition helped them get ready for the NBA season.
Yeah.
And they played every year, and they thought that was nonsense, that they needed rest. So, and they also took great pride in playing and representing their country. So,
and that's the big point, Grant, because a lot of these players, they used to be, I think the 1992, 1996, if I'm not mistaken, was all NBA first team and then all NBA second team. And I mean, until the Europeans started, and then we'd pick from the third team and send those out. But then you'd get people like Shaquille O'Neal and Hakeem Olajuwon, like, why is this guy starting over me and this, that, and the third?
Yep.
There's a lot of egos over there. But it's like, we got to understand this is bigger than just us. So I think that's also part of their goal this year, and why you see people like Drew Holiday and Derek White. And no disrespect to them, but we have much better candidates than those players right now. Especially losing a forward like Kawhi Leonard. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, all right. So with all that said, the way the roster looks, there's still no way that this team should lose. This team should definitely win the gold medal, and they should have no issues, right?
We should. I mean, Cooper Flag apparently and Keegan Murray, that select team only lost by like 1 point, I think, when they were scrimmaging. So I know it was a scrimmage, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see. These guys are old. LeBron is 40 years old. And now Kawhi left. And KD's hurt. You got Tatum to play the backup three, and that's it.
I don't understand why KD's on the team either, to be honest with you.
Apparently, KD said he wants to play in 2028. in one of his summer Olympic interviews. You know how they do a lot of those.
He's delusional.
Yeah, yeah. He's really. I mean, that he's about to tear his Achilles again. That's how it starts with those calf strains.
Well, I'll just tell you, the rest of the world, when you talk about Spain, when you talk about,
yes,
there's Preston even said even Canada has a decent roster.
Canada,
Yeah,
Canada is good.
does. They played very well last year in the World Cup. The rest of the world has really made, as we know, great strides. Australia has a lot of tremendous basketball players. I mean, listen, who would have ever thought that Argentina could win a gold medal in basketball, but they did when Manu Ginobili was there.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you
Think about
you
that.
always have and I mean, Joel Embiid could have played for France. So now
Yes.
you're talking Gobert, Wembanyama, and Embiid.
Oh, come on. I know.
And we have who? Anthony Davis and Bam Adebayo? I mean, no disrespect to those guys, but you're talking about Embiid and Wemby. That's that's tough for us. It's about.
Hang on a minute. I want to see if we can have maybe a multiple conversation. Hey, how are you? Welcome to the program. How's everything going?
It's going amazing, Grant. I've actually only met your wife before. She came in to Target when I was a teenager working there, and she was awesome. So that's now cool. I get to actually talk to you. I'm just stoked beyond all belief to be here right now. So
I figured, you know what? I'm always talking with Jay. I saw you were, in queue. I wanted to bring you up. Do you have anything to say on this conversation?
Yes, I do. It was crazy, just listening to you and the very first year that I was playing college basketball. So I'm like almost the exact same age as LeBron James. We're like a month apart. Okay. But the first year I was playing college basketball over in Oklahoma was, and I got to see him playing against my Sacramento Kings. And that was just being the same age. That was just such a surreal moment. It was just like, man, this guy's
in 2003, right?
It was absolutely insane. I'm sitting there in the dorm rooms and I'm watching this and it's absolutely insane. I always wanted to play with guys like Doug Christie from Pepperdine, right? I used to have all these guys' shoe sizes, what colleges they went to, like everything memorized.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but one of the things though that I did want to say, and I wanted to kind of touch on it, is one thing that I've always kind of felt when it comes down to international basketball is that their big men are a lot more well-rounded comparatively to us here in the States.
No question about it. No question about it. They're completely fundamentally sound in all aspects of the game.
Yes, where we think it's really exciting to have a small forward who can be or a power forward who can be like a point forward. Think about all the centers, right, that they've had. Like, Jay, think about the centers that they had back in the 80s and 90s over there in Europe. They could outpass some of our point guards that were out.
Arvydas Sabonis, Domantas' father is considered the greatest passing big man of all time.
Exactly. And so when I look at the United States, that the rest of the world, they're going to have leverage on us as far as probably the center or power forward, this, that, and the other. But where we really stake our claim is as far as our representation and how we're going to get after them is really the point guard, shooting guard, and small forward. The rest of the world doesn't have a guy like LeBron James who can play the 2, the 3, and the power forward, right? Same thing with Kevin Durant. So you can set a screen, right? Those high lows. You can run a beautiful Princeton offense, right? If you're France or Serbia, you're trying to do these things. But as soon as you set a screen on LeBron James, you've got a 6'10" Kevin Garnett that can easily and willingly kind of slide out there. I do actually like the Tyrese Halliburton pick. I really do. But I look at it differently in a different type of optic, right? I'm seeing this more as like he's a gel guy. Not everybody there can be somebody who wears a cape in the morning, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you got to have people who are just absolutely smart, intentional, basketball players. Because again, when you're going up against these European countries, right? They're not playing in the same manner that we are. So we got to have some things that kind of match and offset, right? So you're looking at this roster construction. One thing that I've always felt like USA Basketball didn't do a good enough job with is sometimes bringing in some of those like hustle guys, right? Maybe not the big name guys. Not everybody needs to be an all-star or an all-pro, but some of those guys who are just the absolute sixth men of the year, but just do all the niche stuff that a lot of the prima donnas don't want to do or sacrifice on the floor, top to bottom. But
what do you think about that, Jay?
You know, and yeah, we need people that are going to sweep the arena, who's going to finish, who's going to do the dirty work, the stuff that nobody wants to do, and that's why we have, you know, the Drew Holidays and Halliburton. I think is a great point. I'm not saying that I don't like him on the team, but there are a few players that I think Jaylen Brown could swap out for. But I like Halliburton because he is a team player. You see him getting 10 assists, or, you know, he doesn't really care to be a ball dominant guy. Like, yeah, that he likes the offense to run through him, but he shares the ball, right? The thing is, though, it's tough. It's tough because he's young. You want to develop him. You want him to get experience because we want to have longevity in the Olympics and compete with someone like that. I don't know. We have that though. Like, who are we afraid of, Gammon? That's what I want to ask you. The same thing I asked Grant, right? Because you said we need some of those same players.
Yeah,
I don't think the Team USA is afraid of anybody. They're going to be the prohibitive favorites to win the gold medal. The world knows that. And with the roster that they have, regardless of whether we can sit here and say, well, this guy should have been on it, that guy should have been on it. The reality is that the United States roster is the best roster in the Olympics, period. And it's really not debatable. They are clearly the best roster. But the best roster doesn't always win, but this team should bring home the gold.
That's true.
Absolutely. And Jay, to your point, when you say, you know, who am I afraid of? And I'm really afraid of us, right? So the thing that we do really well, right? I would say Allen Iverson back then, he would have been better than any point guard in any other team internationally. But internationally, some of those teams, those point guards do a better job of point guarding than just playing basketball, right? It's not about, we do a lot of isolation plays.
Yep.
Right. That just kind of just leaving us out there. And that's the thing I like about Tyrese Halliburton is that he's going to facilitate that movement. And that kind of brings, so there's things sometimes, the nuances, these little things that were sometimes kind of gets lost on us. But what I am afraid of is I'm afraid of our team chemistry or lack thereof. Right.
I think that when you get to this stage and when you get to Paris, I really believe this. I believe that there's a coming together where you get the sense of why you're there. And generally speaking, I think that's where the coaching really comes in terms of team chemistry. I think that collectively the players buy into why they're there, and that is to win the gold medal for the United States. And I think that's part of being in Las Vegas, building up to the Olympics, and I think that's where the chemistry will build. I would agree with you, though. I don't think the chemistry is as good as in some of the other countries, which play together not just once every 4 years. They're together every summer playing international competition, and their chemistry is better. I think that's a very good point you make, but I still think that will not be an issue in these games. I just don't.
You know, one thing I've always wanted to see done is, you know, if we had a team that was kind of on the brink or is in the middle of a dynasty type of setting, and maybe they only have like a couple European players on that team, removing some of those European players who are going to play for their own country, and then trying to add in a couple of like the all-stars. But then that way you still have that team. You have that's been through all those meetings, that have been through all that, you know, it's different when you've been to war with some of those guys to your left and right. I do agree with you, Grant, wholeheartedly. When you go there, the expectation and the selfless service and the sacrifice, and the buy-in, it's going to be a little bit different. But also, too, I point to the reason why you're not so big and heavy-handed when it comes down to watching the Olympics. Because you're like, well, why wasn't this a big deal last year? But then if our talent is that great and everyone has that same sacrifice and that same drive, when we're putting together, I'm sure, $1 billion teams, how come we still can't win unless we put our cream of the absolute crop?
It's a great point, Gammon. You bring up some good points. So I'm going to ask both of you this question. If the United States, and Jay, I'll begin with you first. If the United States does not bring home the gold, on a scale of 1 to 10, that's a 10 in terms of disappointment, isn't it? This would be a
absolutely
gigantic disappointment. And this would be a really bad look for U.S. basketball, considering that the U.S. team this year is, for lack of a better term, loading up. Like everyone's like, I want to be on the team. I want to be on the team. I want to be on the team, right? This would be a disaster for U.S. basketball, right, Jay?
That's actually funny that you asked that question, because I was literally thinking in my head, is there a way where I could buy like a replica gold medal when we win, so I could put it up next to the Stephen Curry jersey?
Right.
But I would be very disappointed if I didn't have the opportunity to get one. Obviously, I think it'd be embarrassing. I think it honestly would be embarrassing if we lost to anybody, even though we could still win a gold medal. I think the way it works is like a point differential tournament based type of thing, what they do with soccer. It's embarrassing. It would be very embarrassing.
I think it personally would be the worst loss for a U.S. men's basketball team that we've ever had. Whenever we've lost in other times, right, there was always an excuse or a reason that could be made.
Yeah, I agree.
We have so many people who have worn that flag, are sporting gold medals. They have them hanging there in their closet, and then to not be able to punch it in or get it done, and we're talking about have the collective front that's there, it would go down as probably the worst loss in a team sport history, regardless of sport.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there's any other way that you could look at it. So It wouldn't just be disappointing. It would be. I mean, that's just. Yeah.
On the flip side, though, it would sell. It would sell so many. It would make so much money. These documentaries, it would sell.
But it would also be that the threshold has now been met by the rest of the world. It would mean that the United States does not have basketball supremacy anymore. The United States has had basketball supremacy forever. Even when Doug Collins and that team lost on a horrible call to Russia in the Olympics, even when Argentina won, there was always reasons for that, Gammon. As you point out, you're spot on. There are no excuses this summer. There are none. The United States has been preparing for this. They've loaded up. And I think it's unlikely, but if the United States does not bring home gold, it really will be, wow, okay, the rest of the world is finally caught up with the United States in basketball.
I mean, you have no excuse.
No.
Well, we didn't have Michael Jordan, or like you have LeBron, you have Kevin Durant, you have Stephen Curry.
Yep.
Well, what they're going to say, Jay, and a little bit to your point, right? So I can see why the roster construction with this team is going the way that it is, with a lot of like point guard, shooting guard, small forwards, right? Because that's really where our greatest source of influx of talent is. But one thing I've always been worried about, right, is we don't have very many bigs on this roster.
We don't.
So if we get into foul trouble,
we got lucky.
What do we do?
Embiid.
But if he gets into any type of like foul trouble,
I agree.
A couple quick whistles. I mean, where do you go from there, right? Like, who's patrolling the paint? Who's bodying up on some guy like even though Wemby, but he's a lanky guy. But what are you, how are you keeping him off the boards? How are you, it becomes an absolute night. France, then at that, all of a sudden, if you got to put a 6'8", 6'9" guy out there on someone who's 7'5",
Bam Adebayo, that's
awful. I'm throwing lobs to him the entirety.
Yeah.
The biggest upset in the Olympics would be if the women's team does not win the gold, because they are head and shoulders better than the rest of the world. So that would be shocking. That would be one of the great. That would be, I don't want to say the equivalent of the United States on the Miracle on Ice in 1980 when they won the gold medal, but that would be probably the biggest story of the Olympics if the women's team does not bring home the gold. They're head and shoulders above the rest of the world.
I think the men would be, I mean, just with the star power you have, and that's no disrespect to the women's basketball, but we know that they don't get as much attention as the
I'm going to agree with Grant here as far as that you're talking about the level of competition, the freedoms that our ladies are attributed comparatively to other countries, right? That would be astronomical. But I tell you what, Grant, what would be a bigger story? The fact that the UN's women's national team lost, or that they didn't have Caitlin Clark on that squad?
Wow.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, that is a very good question. I love this conversation, Gavin. It's great that you called, man. It's don't be a stranger. You bring some great content to the show. It's great to have you on.
Grant, I've been following you since I was in high school, and
wow,
I've always yeah. I mean, I just it's so funny because I'll go and I'll watch sometimes, some of these old kind of like montages of like basketball. And then all of a sudden I'll hear Grant's voice. I was like, I know that voice. You know what I mean? Little old Sacramento, here we are. But like, I would hear that voice. It's just like, it's just so iconic.
Where'd you go to high school?
So Oak Ridge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Over there in El Dorado Hills. So yeah.
I lived in El Dorado Hills for 20 years, so I'm very familiar with it. It's great because, Ryan Anderson, what a great story, for him to go to Oak Ridge and have the career, and what a great guy he is. Obviously younger than you, but that's, Oak Ridge just had some pretty FP Santangelo, major league player, right, for baseball. And so
some football players too.
Football. Yeah. Pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. And then you went to college, you said, at Oklahoma?
Yes. Yeah. So I went there, and it was a life-changing experience because I'm 6'2", and so I went there, and a lot of the point guards there were like 5'9", 5'10", and so as a freshman, I was kind of like, I see why you guys need me here, and then I was immediately just buried on the bottom, like very quickly. I was like, gosh, I'm not strong enough. These guys, I forget what you call that, Grant, but they have that thing where they kind of raise up on a pole, and it has all those like blue and white sticks, and you have to jump up. And yeah. And so there I was, and so we had to do this test. So I went up there and I hit a stick, and then this guy who was 5'9", another point guard, I think he was like a junior, and he jumped up and he got the exact same stick that I got, and I was just like, man, this is a different animal right here. And so I could only imagine, like, professionally, what that's like. So.
Hey, man, appreciate your call. Jay, thank you as well, buddy.
All right, thank you.
All right, good. That's good stuff right there from Gammon and Jay, man. That was a great segment. That's why I love doing this show. It's phenomenal to be able to get the perspective of different people. And Jay's been a regular on this program, and it's great. That's the first time Gammon's called. Boy, that was great. That's good. Good stuff right there. Hey, if you want to get in on the program like all you got to do is hit the link. It is easy to do. It's right there. Or you have the QR code above my shoulder. Again, you can call the program. Don't forget that coming up at 8 o'clock, I will be back on with Ryan in Sacktown. He'll join me, and we'll have our show at 8 o'clock. What a great segment that was. Man, that's really a lot of fun, and really appreciate both Gammon and Jay for joining the show. All right, so when you look at the Vegas Summer League, from Sacramento's perspective, it is really disappointing that the newest player, who you just drafted 13th overall in Carter, is not going to be able to participate. So, this question, how is Joel on Team USA if he was born in Cameroon? You can be, you don't have to be born in the country to play on the team like United. You don't have to be born in America to be on the Team USA. There are the criteria I don't have in front of me. I wish I could read it to you verbatim and it would make more sense to you. You can Google it and look it up, but it's, again, I don't have the wording in front of me, but you can look it up and it will tell you what the criteria is to play for a particular country. All right, again, good to have you on right here. Don't forget that we will be coming on at 8 o'clock tonight, Ryan in Sacktown, and we will have more on this. We'll have more on the Summer League. And what else now do you look at as the biggest need for Sacramento In what direction will the Kings be going in terms of filling out their roster now? And are there any negatives at all to having DeMar DeRozan on the Sacramento Kings? I covered a little bit this yesterday. I'll get into it a little bit later with Ryan and Sacktown, and we will look at that. All right? Good here. All right, there's your answer. Gavin is currently serving in the Army. I wasn't aware that Grant had a podcast. This channel popped up on my feed, and I knew it was an instant click. Thank you, buddy. You can go to my website, and you can check out ifyoudon'tlikethat.com or grantnapier.com, and my work is posted on that, so you can check it all out. All right, just go to ifyoudon'tlikethat.com or grantnapier.com, and everything will be right there. All right, here it is. ifyoudon'tlikethat.com. And Gavin, spread the word. Check it out. And I've been doing a lot of these shows on YouTube. Really happy that you found us also. Thank you very much for your service. It's greatly appreciated, and much respect for you. Good stuff right there. Really good. All right. Good stuff. I'll tell you right now, you're getting a lot of love, Gavin, on the show. Jay always does. So we appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Again, 8 o'clock, right back here. And don't forget about Ryan's show, The King's Court, every afternoon at 2 o'clock. And on Tuesdays, he's got Jerry Reynolds joining him. We will be talking about a lot of things coming up tonight at 8 o'clock. Hey, thank you very much for joining me right here on If You Don't Like That. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.